Aidan Gillen is here, Lord Baelish Littlefinger. Now he's playing Will, and you're ugly too. So, how was it for you shooting this kind of movie, this little art house movie?
Um, Very good. I tend to, especially since I've been working on series like Game of Thrones, for instance, or The Wire, another HBO series that I'd worked on for a fair long period. I always try and counter program, I suppose, by filling my months off with smaller type projects where the work is probably more intensive, where you have to go in and shoot every day. And I think it's also important to actively engage with the film industry in your country or the countries you live in, because I've made worked in similar scale of projects as You're Ugly Too in Ireland, but also the UK and also America, which have been the three territories where I've been working most. I find it quite fulfilling, to have to shoot something where we don't have that. The resources are limited and time is limited, so you tend to work longer days and faster, and you have to be prepared and know what you're doing, and you're doing it for the love of your craft or acting or filmmaking, as opposed to for financial gain, because there isn't any.
As I saw this movie the first time, I was really flashed by Lauren and his work. So, what do you think about this at the moment of the shooting? 11-year-old girl.
Yeah, great. I mean, when Mark, the writer-director, sent us the script, I immediately liked it and said, yes, I'd love to let's try and do it within the next few months, but you're going to have to it's not going to work unless you've got an actress to play the kid who's really good and is going to be able to work under those constraints, as in get it right first time or second time, and hopefully have a bit of spark. Her character, she does most of the work, most of the heavy lifting. She's like driving the story. The Will character is quite passive and not so great at coping, whereas she has to take the adult role, if you like, and keep things on track. He saw a bunch of kids, but I think as soon as they found her, they knew she was the one. She's from a theatre acting workshop in Dublin where they do a lot of improvisation, so it doesn't all have to be scripted, basically. Although quite a lot of the film was scripted, there are starts and ends of scenes. We tended to just throw out something, like I'll just say something and see what happens. We knew we were okay when we were shooting a scene where we were driving the car, and I decided to just see what would happen if I took my hands off I said, so you drive, so I kind of went into my pockets to do something, and she was like perfectly capable of like driving the car from the passenger side. I think she gives a great performance, and very importantly, she's not a show-off. So she doesn't look like she's trying to be an actor or trying to be a film star or anything like that, or trying to look any prettier than she does. It's just quite plain, honest, unshowy, and like I said, she's really doing all the hard work in this film. So without her, it wouldn't be a film.
And you're turning into a good character in this movie, because at the beginning you never know. Why was he in jail? Is he a good one or not? I ask because, especially in Game of Thrones or also in Maze Runner, you play a bad guy. So this means the villain is like a role you love, or is it just by course?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that I have played a lot of villain roles, and this was identified by the director, who wanted, apparently after a conversation with my mother, right, because Dublin is a small town where I'm from and where Mark lives and where my mother lives. They were at a screening of a film that I'd done where I'd played another comedic role from about 5 years ago, a film called Treacle Jr. And Mark Noonan had this conversation with my mother where she's like, we like to see Aidan smile, and he plays a lot of these dark roles, and he's very bad, and he's very nasty, and he's doing all these bad things to people. So my mother wanted to see me not in such a bad light. Having said that, it's a quite mixed character. This is a guy who's been in prison, a guy who's maybe got a bit of a liking for drugs and alcohol, but that's not what his driving force is. He is a good guy and he is a warm guy, just not a very capable person maybe. And it is nice the way that the film, his character emerges in the film, because you aren't sure what he's done or how good a person he might be, or he's certainly not a nasty person, but has made bad choices, poor choices, and wound up in prison, but is very much trying to atone for his mistakes and look after this kid. It's also worth noting that the child is his niece, and following the death of her mother, they remain the only two living members of a family. There's no parents left. There's no other siblings. Nothing. It's just her and him, and they don't even know each other. So over the period of the film, they've got to get to know each other. We didn't rehearse any scenes, or we didn't meet beforehand. So we just showed up on day one and started shooting. So there's a bit of that, awkwardness and getting to know each other. It's all just real because we didn't know each other. It seemed like a more interesting way to do it is not to rehearse, or we didn't have time for that anyway.
Totally as a subject, is there any specific animal that you would love to do a movie with, or does it just have enjoyed for a movie, like some exotic things like a tiger or a lion or a panther?
That's a good question. I do. If it had to be an animal, it would probably be something a bit less exotic, like a bit more traditional, like a dog. You know what I mean? I do have a good relationship with my own dog, so maybe we could cast Echo, who's my small West Highland Terrier. I've managed to bring Echo on a few gigs with me, and managed to get her into a few photo shoots for magazines and stuff, just kind of sitting there, on the lap. I think Mark's next film is about a tiger, the director. It's about a couple and a tiger loose in Dublin. Maybe a dolphin, but not a shark. Maybe a whale, I don't know.
But talking about Echo, did you have maybe the chance to put him into one of your movies?
Yeah, she has actually been in a film called Pickups, which is my third project with a director called Jamie Thraves, who's a UK director. He's very good, and our first two films have been seen in lots of festivals around the world and all that, and won awards at festivals and had cinema releases and been shown on TV ultimately. But we had a scene in this Pickups, which the name of the film is Pickups, it hasn't come out yet, but I have a Skype conversation with my daughter, my real daughter, and the dog just happened to show up, so we got the dog involved as well. So we were doing it like for real over Skype, and I was trying to get the dog to do tricks like pick up her ears and like give me the paw and all the rest of it. So she's already had a bit of a breaking in the acting world. I don't know if she's going to be able to do many tricks or anything like that little dog who recently passed away, who was in The Artist. But what was that dog called? The French film The Artist, Oggy. And Oggy was a very cute dog and does lots of tricks. And if you have a cute dog or an animal in a film, you're kind of well on the way. But I like, if there's going to be an animal in a film, I think it's nice if they have a human, counterpart or buddy or whatever. If it's just Lassie, I don't know. I want there to be a human there too.
Last question from me, because Channing Tatum told me that he wants to bring his dog to the sets because this is for him some kind. It keeps him grounded, reminds him of home.
Yeah.
So did you feel the same? Maybe having some dog or some other things with you around that reminds you of home, especially when you're far away from home for shootings.
Yeah, it would be difficult to bring the dog away for quarantine reasons and stuff like that. Also, a dog can be quite noisy on a set, so you might get yourself into a lot of trouble if your dog's barking away at you or howling and causing, hundreds of thousands of pounds in expenses because the day's shooting is, the sound is no good. I tend to not bring stuff with me. I go the opposite way. I'll head off for a job filming somewhere, and I'll bring like nothing, like not even any clothes or anything, just like my passport, bare minimum, like a little bag with a couple of things. I like to be not reminded of home.
Okay, I would feel naked, so this way. So.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know, I have kids, so I do often bring pictures of my kids, and that's it.
Oh,
I was doing a job in New York. It's just funny you should say that. And I did an interview like with a journalist from the New York Times, and he wrote about it. He said this guy has nothing in his room apart from pictures of his two kids and a vase of, you know, with like one rose or whatever that was just happened to be left there by somebody else. I'm not a sentimental person, and I like to just arrive with not too much baggage, literally and metaphorically. I kind of, you know, just show up and pretend I'm somebody else.
thanks so much.